All right, so I've been super curious about pay transparency and just how not just employees respond to it, but how do candidates respond to it? And one of the things that we were very careful about when I used to be in executive search was not really giving the pay range to the candidates because candidates would tend to gravitate towards the high end, and then it would make the offer process really sort of messy. And so our goal was just to find out kind of where the candidate was at and what their expectations were and see if it even, matched up with the pay range with the client. And there's just so many things that can happen between, the first phone interview and the offer stage because the client might have, a high end of the range in mind, but maybe they don't feel like the candidate's skill sets meet this range. So I posted a poll on LinkedIn and was just kind of curious about how candidates would feel given a certain scenario. So here's the situation. Um, let's say a recruiter contacts you about your dream job, offering the ideal next step. It's got great challenges. It meets all your requirements, and the recruiter is really transparent with the salary range. And in this case, let's say that the lower end of the range is 10% higher than your current salary. You have a great first interview with the hiring manager, really hit it off, but the hiring manager points out that you do lack some critical experiences, but they still want to proceed. After a second interview and no further discussions, this is the key, no further discussions about compensation, you unexpectedly receive an offer at the bottom of the initial salary range, which is, as we mentioned, a 10% increase. You find the offer too low and plan to negotiate, but how do you feel about the opportunity now that you've received an offer at the lower end of the range? And so, opportunities were, hey, no longer excited about the opportunity, still excited about the opportunity, excited but disappointed with the offer, or other. And so as it turns out, there's 26% of the respondents, we had 97 votes, saying that they're no longer even interested in the excited about the opportunity. 21% still excited about the opportunity, 51% excited but disappointed, and then 3% other. So, the way that the recruiter handled this situation basically gave you, about 26% of the people are going to just say, no, I'm out. And then 72% who are excited, but only 21%, I'm sorry, are excited, and 51%, over half, are disappointed. And so you kind of get a start with this relationship with this candidate with coming into it with disappointment. So that's probably not an ideal situation. So if you stick around to the end, I'll explain how I would handle this situation to ensure more people are still excited about the opportunity, even if they came in at the bottom end of the range. Now, what I found interesting, of course, I'm the data analytic here, so I wanted to just dissect this. Of the 26% who said they're no longer excited, it was about half and half, men and women. A tiny bit more men, 52% more, or 52% were men who were not excited, 48% women. The still excited about the opportunity was 75% female and 25% male. So only 25% of the men were still excited about the opportunity. And of the 51% who said they're excited but disappointed, it was, once again, majority female, so 75% or 73.5% female and 26.5% male. So that was kind of an interesting breakdown just from a gender perspective. Now, how I would have handled this situation would have been at this point, after the second interview, after the first interview, calling the candidate and sort of reinforcing that message that you got, you really hit it off with the hiring leader. You're missing some of the experiences that we're looking for, but we really still want to proceed. And sort of setting some expectations as to what is the bottom end of the range, how does that correlate to the skill set, what's the midpoint of that range, and what kind of skill sets are expected there, and what's the higher end of the range. Now, that's assuming your organization has gone through, really some compensation transparency work and job architecture work. But that's the first touch point. After the second touch point, I think I'd want to talk to the candidate and just see how excited they are, what they're feeling, obviously, about the situation. And once again, kind of, knowing that this might be a finalist, setting that expectation, but also letting them know they're, assuming there are other candidates, that there are other candidates in the wings. Okay, so I think setting those expectations, having those touch points are really important. One other thing I wanted to mention is I was speaking to an executive at a rather large healthcare organization. They talked about how even though it's getting a little bit easier to hire talent given what's going on in the economy, it's still very expensive because the candidates that they're talking to, it's taking a lot of touch points. So it's taking more to source them. It's taking more to make sure that you keep them motivated and the momentum going through the process. So just a message really to CEOs and C-suite executives that just because the economy might be changing does not necessarily mean it's any easier right now to attract the top talent. All right, so that's all I have for you today. I think a really interesting show, and I think I did not analyze this, but it was probably majority HR executives who answered this question. And if I had to guess just off the top of my head, I'd say, probably at least 60% were HR leaders who answered this. So, lesson learned. Thanks.